That's what I do.
How do you mess it up?
You'll see.
We're live.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Analytically Correct. I did not mess it up. There you go. Normally, I say the words wrong. Analytically correct is a tough word for me to say, Jeff. That's how you normally mess it up. We have Tyler here, and then my also good friend, Jeff. He's a Florida State fan. A couple things about him. Florida State fan. His favorite Florida State player is Lance Harbor. We're going to be doing something a little bit more structured today than we normally do. But sticking with the brand, we're also starting late. It's about half an hour, 45 minutes off the time. What we're going to do is, since it's draft week, we're going to go back and all credit up front. I got this idea from Bill Simmons. I don't want people to go out there and be like, oh, you're stealing ideas. I got the idea from Bill Simmons, which I think was a good idea. He's been redrafting old NBA drafts. Started with 99 and going on from there. And it's something that I do as a Lions fan is, and a Pistons fan and a Michigan fan in general, is go back and torment myself with who we could have had. The most infamous being Darko Milicic. So we're gonna go back, since this is draft week, and we're gonna redraft the 2007 NFL draft based on what we know now. But before we do that, we're gonna start with a little bit of talk about the documentary about Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, and then a trade that actually happened. We're so starved for sports news that we got a trade that, and I said this last week, it's come across, and I've gotten more ESPN push updates with no sports going on than I ever got when it was going on, which is super annoying. It'll be like, this Olympic athlete now can practice. I'm like, okay. So to start with the trade, it was the Patriots traded Gronkowski, which I didn't even know they still had the rights to, but I guess it makes sense. They traded Rob Gronkowski and a 7th-round pick to the Buccaneers for a 4th-round pick, which, if you're thinking, oh, that rings a bell, Tom Brady's on the Buccaneers. So your guys' thoughts as far as that trade goes, Gronkowski and a 7th-round pick for a 4th.
I mean, what's the question on that? Do you think it's a good move? Because obviously,
I just asked for your thoughts.
I mean, I just think it's a great move for Tampa. What do you want me to say? I think that
I'm just curious. And obviously, if it was any other team, then we would not think too much of it. But Gronkowski to the Bucs makes sense, obviously, because Tom Brady's there. You know, if it was a lot,
Gronkowski's not coming out of retirement for any other team.
But so do you think that they just traded pretty much get rid of the 7th-round pick, because that's irrelevant. They pretty much traded a 4th-round pick for Rob Gronkowski.
I don't even think that the draft picks are relevant. The only relevant question is, clearly we understand that Gronkowski and Brady had a discussion. Brady probably went to the Bucs and said, hey, he's willing to come back if we make this trade. That seems to be the initial kind of speculation, which makes all the sense in the world. It only matters if he can get back into football shape, if there is a season, and ultimately if he can stay reasonably healthy to make an impact. I think he had 700 yards his last season, roughly, with New England. So it's relevant. It's very relevant if Gronk stays healthy.
But I think it is super relevant that he had, he retired pretty much. Oh, I almost saw a car accident. He retired pretty much for health reasons. I mean, you would think it's not like the guy doesn't like playing football, he doesn't strike me as a guy who cares that much about money. It's important that if it was Patriots, the draft picks, like you said they don't matter. I think they do matter. Because pretty much if you swap a 4th for a 7th, the part that matters is the 3 rounds of difference, which is getting Gronkowski. So the Buccaneers would not have done this if they didn't think that Gronkowski is going to play a part or be on the roster next year. This tells me pretty much that Gronkowski is going to play at some point next year for the Bucs.
Well, I think that's pretty obvious. Go ahead, Tom.
I think that having Gronk on the team, because there's no quote unquote preseason or training camps to deal with, you have some rapport with somebody that you can like kind of have two people speaking the same voice to a whole team as opposed to just Tom Brady trying to throw all of his stuff out there. So regardless of if Gronk is going to be the player that he was prior to the last 2 seasons, him not being that great, at least he knows the offense that Tom Brady wants to run, and he's always going to be that safety.
I disagree a little bit. They're running Bruce Arians' offense.
They're not going to be running that offense.
You don't think Tom Brady's going to have a say in that?
I'm not saying there won't be elements if Bruce Arians is as great offensively as people have given him credit over the years, then he'll make adjustments to fit, obviously, Brady and ultimately Gronk. But Bruce Arians, the thing I do question about this is, I mean, you can go back and look. Bruce Arians' offenses have never traditionally used tight ends that much. And so I don't know, between Gronk's health, his age, getting back into football shape, and then ultimately Bruce Arians' offensive system, how much of an impact. I mean, he's a threat because he's on the field, but statistically, I don't know what that's going to look like.
Which is funny that you say that his offenses don't traditionally use tight ends for a team that already had 2 pretty good tight ends and then just traded for another one.
Right. And I think it would seem obvious that O.J. Howard's going to get traded. You would think there was already speculation about that anyway. So if they net a 4th or 5th rounder for O.J. Howard, probably not a stretch. They
pretty much got him for free.
Then, yeah. Granted, you're probably getting Gronk for a year or 2 at the most, and you're trying to milk this Brady year or 2 at the most
right
situation for all he's worth.
If you're the Bucks, that's all you're looking for is a year or 2. Like, they didn't sign Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl 4 years from now. They signed him for many reasons, but also if you're looking to win a championship, it's going to be this year or next year. They didn't sign Tom Brady to win a championship 4 years from now. So going all in kind of makes a little bit more sense. And looking at what they gave up, it's not a ton to give up if he's able to come back and be 80% of what he was, which coming off of a 1.5 year layoff is not unthinkable. No. I mean, I think he's under 30 still.
He's 31, but do you think there's an element of this that the speculation about Brady and Belichick's kind of relationship eroding, was Gronk part of that equation in the sense that he retired and felt that way about Belichick too, where this is kind of an FU to Belichick in some ways?
If you look at it, if you look at it, then Belichick trading the rights, which I'm sure when the thing came across our updates or alerts or timelines, a lot of people don't even know that he still had the rights to Gronkowski, which I sure didn't. I just assumed, he's retired. And
I think you have to, Marty. I think you have to officially file your paperwork with the NFLPA and the NFL to officially be retired. And I remember reading last year somewhere that Gronk actually never did it, which is why he got drafted in fantasy drafts everywhere, including ours.
Well, and then the fact that when you go back to the Belichick relationship, and one of the finishing things for Gronk to end his career, which I, as a Lions fan, is just beautiful. They said, we're going to trade you to the Lions. He's like, nah, I'll just retire instead. in a long line of us forcing players that are not even past their prime yet to retire, a la Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, that just the threat of getting traded to the Lions will force you to end your career. So that's it basically for the Gronk trade. Unless you guys have anything else, I would be interested to see if he does go there. It's just going to be so weird to see both of those guys in Buccaneers jerseys.
I mean, the Bucs needed a third wide receiver because they just got rid of their third wide receivers out. So
but they didn't need a third wide receiver. They have arguably the best wide receiver tandem in the league in Godwin and Evans.
Agreed.
I mean, it's tough to beat. So if you add an 80% Rob Gronkowski to that, I mean, you're gonna have
it's just another weapon that they have in the red zone. Like
you're gonna have to see it to believe it, and it's definitely gonna help him out in an off season now with everything that's going on, where you're not able to throw to these guys in Godwin and Evans. Like, you're gonna have a weapon there that you with the Bruce Arians offense, like you said, it's going to be a new thing. But he can go to Gronk and just draw it up in the dirt and be like, okay, remember that play we had in the Super Bowl and this year, and do that or whatever. I think it's more impactful than just an ESPN alert where it's like, oh, Gronkowski just got traded. He's a retired player. It's more impactful than that, I think.
Right.
So to transition into The Last Dance and the Michael Jordan documentary, I was happy to have Jeff on because he's and same thing for Stretch too. They're always telling me, look back at this guy. This guy deserves more credit. And of course, I know about Michael Jordan, but you can only watch so many games on YouTube before you understand how great this guy was. So I want to go to Jeff first. Just your thoughts on the whole Jordan doc, which I've heard so far. The first 2 episodes are amazing, and from what I've heard, the first 2 are the worst 2.
No shit.
You haven't seen it? I didn't know that.
No, I watched the first 2. I'm saying I haven't seen the whole thing. People who have seen the whole thing said the first 2 are the worst 2.
Oh, wow. If that's the case, then wow. I guess for me, it was, you get a little bit of deeper dive into seeing what those of us who feel, strongly about Michael Jordan clearly being the GOAT, is that you saw the difference in his competitiveness, even in the sense of, the way that he took a exhibition game overseas, how seriously he took that, how seriously he took just losing in general, at anything. The early years with the Bulls where they were clearly terrible and had guys doing cocaine, and he was on a minutes restriction, and he's not understanding why he's not in the game in spite of his injury. Those things, I think, are for those of us who were fortunate to watch many Michael Jordan games, is what you could somehow sense and feel just watching him play as often as we did. And I think it's one of the reasons that no matter how many YouTube games or highlights you see of Michael Jordan, it's hard to quantify how different the sense was of watching him for years, for those of us who did.
What he called, and I didn't realize this, a couple of my observations from watching the documentary, which I was super excited to watch because, like you said, I always get this pushback from when I say LeBron's the best player of all time. I get the pushback from Stretch and then older guys like yourself. Not as a shot, no offense, but you're statistically older. But when they're like, oh, you haven't watched Michael Jordan play, or you didn't watch these guys play, John Stockton, Stretch is always putting up for it. And I can watch games on YouTube, but when you have a documentary laid out like this, and you see just the things that Michael Jordan does, and it's like you said, the thing where he's in the exhibition game in France or whatever it was, and he's just yelling at his teammates and stuff like that. It's just a crazy thing to watch. So some of my takeaways just from that were Scottie Pippen, the contract. It's funny for a Michael Jordan documentary to come over with a Scottie Pippen take, but I think a lot of people had it where Scottie Pippen's contract, what was it? I mean,
it's like 122nd worst in the whole
7
NBA.
years, $18 million, I believe.
That's insane. Like Tristan Thompson makes that per year. And it's crazy to just look at things like that. And then Michael Jordan has such a competitive mentality that he comes at it from the sense when Scottie wants out that he's being selfish after he's been underpaid for his entire career.
No, he was upset about him not getting surgery done so that he would have been available for the season. And that kind of plays into what I was saying about Michael. Michael only cared about winning. There was nothing else for him. And you can see it even in these first 2 episodes. And the Scottie thing, I think I understand a little bit more day 2 into it and reading some things and seeing some people talk about it who were actually around the situation, was that he was genuinely concerned about his back injury, which was not just a, clear out some scar tissue thing. It was a legitimate back issue that he needed to take care of the 11, 12 other members of his family.
Yeah, which is why he signed the contract.
Correct.
it's similar to the OJ documentary, if you guys have watched that, where they set everything up and they show you about Scottie Pippen's history and they explain why he signed that contract. And it's like, a lot of us would have done the same thing. You can't blame him or the agent. It's like 17 million in the grand scheme of things doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when that sets up your family for life, after you talk about his dad passing away, his other family member being in a wheelchair, that's a lottery ticket right there, and you have to take it. Another thing that I found interesting was, so with the Scottie Pippen contract, did you know this, Jeff, that or Stretch, that Scottie Pippen actually made more money in the NBA than Michael Jordan did?
Yeah. Well, he played. Yeah, he played the second half of his career. He made what, $20 to $30 million, something like that, almost every season. So,
and I didn't realize this. Another thing was the whole Jerry Krause thing, and Stretch made a Facebook post about like the lesson from the documentary is don't be Jerry Krause, which they're making the bad guy in this whole thing for breaking everything up. And I tried to defend him without knowledge, and I said that Jerry Krause drafted Michael Jordan and built this team. That's not true.
No, it's not true at all. He's the one player on the team that Jerry Krause didn't add to the roster via trade or drafting.
Have you heard this theory? And this will get Tyler more involved too, with Space Jam, that the small cartoon character that smokes cigars is based on Jerry Krause.
I heard that.
You heard that?
I heard that. That just makes so much sense, though.
That built the Monstars is the guy. Jerry Krause is based off that guy.
The Danny DeVito voice-over guy, yeah.
In which I would say, if Space Jam is going to be remade, is LeBron going to add in like a Dan Gilbert type character? He lives in Cleveland, and these are the Cleveland Monstars.
Yeah, Michael Jordan's just like, I'll do the movie. Just let me talk shit about this fat guy that I fucking hate.
Yeah, this is Jerry Krause. Another thing, I was listening to the Le Batard show also today, and it's crazy to think you can have a 10-hour documentary and there's stuff that's left out that's just as good. This is one of the stories I thought that should have been included. I don't know how it wasn't. Basically, you know how these kids go to like AAU camps and it costs money to go there. So Mike Jordan basically goes to this AAU camp, and it's 2 weeks, and he only has enough money for the first week. So the second week, they say like, oh, we want him to come back. And his family says, we can't afford for him to come back for a second week. So the camp says, okay, if he works in the kitchen and is a waiter or a server, then that'll pay for him to come back for the next week. So they're like, oh, Mike Jordan is basically serving grilled cheeses and Kool-Aid to these kids during the day. And then at night, he's destroying these kids at camp. Like, he's clearly the best player at the camp. And he can't even afford to – he's literally paying his way by being a server, a waiter.
I mean, back then, you didn't have really AAU as we know it. And you also didn't have recruiting as we know it now. It was much more – regionalized as far as I know, and that I want to say Michael Jordan's top 3 or 4 were, it was North Carolina, South Carolina, NC State, and Duke or something like that.
And to that point, there's also another story that wasn't included in the documentary, that he wanted to go to a D1 college so bad, and he wasn't that heavily recruited, that he's writing letters to Virginia, and they never wrote back. It's like, oops.
Well, by the time Michael was a junior, that wasn't the case. Early on, when he was a junior and he got that growth spurt, everybody, at least in the South and the East Coast, from what I've heard, and even listening to things on XM, was the old coach for South Carolina. He's like, everybody knew who Michael Jordan was. And it was pretty commonly known by his junior year that he was the best high school player in the country, but so recruiting wasn't what it is now, So
I always knew, like, Scottie Pippen. It shows Scottie Pippen at Arkansas State. Like, what? Like, who goes to Arkansas State? Like,
Scottie Pippen grew something like almost a foot from the time he was in.
It's the Anthony Davis thing where you're a point guard, so you get the ball handling, and then you grow 6 to 8 inches. Like, it's not that uncommon.
He was an equipment manager, is what they said during the special.
Yeah,
he didn't even get a scholarship until his sophomore year. I think is what they said. Junior year.
We've seen it before where these guys have like crazy growth spurts in their junior or senior seasons. Like Anthony Davis famously in high school was a point guard. Which is why he has such good ball handling now. Another thing,
still went to Kentucky.
Huh?
Anthony Davis still went to Kentucky. What I'm saying is like,
I know what you're saying. I'm talking more about like the growth spurt thing, which they push as far as Pippen and Jordan.
But you know what was interesting? So he went to an NAIA school. I was talking to somebody last night, and I was trying to remember, as somebody who's followed recruiting in basketball and football and college, and then the drafts, of course, was for many years was I can't remember off the top of my head a Division II or NAIA athlete getting drafted incredibly high in any draft, and I didn't even remember that Scottie Pippen was the 5th pick.
So Pippen was the first pick.
Huh?
Pippen was the first pick.
He's the 5th pick.
He was 5th overall. So he went to Seattle. Well, quote unquote Seattle.
I thought I just watched that he was the first overall pick.
He was the 5th pick.
That shows my notes. I should have written down. What I did write down for those notes is I want that Seattle Supersonics hat, that green hat. That's a good hat.
I couldn't remember, anybody from, that's an NAIA school, let alone even Division II, that I could remember getting drafted that high. And I'm sure there's somebody I'm not thinking about, but I couldn't think of one, and neither could the person I was talking to.
As far as Jordan being drafted, I knew it because basically, being as not young, I mean now I'm old, but young as I am, I got the information from a Jay-Z song that Stretch might know. Is he has one line in one of his songs says, "With the 3rd pick, I made the earth sick." So I'm like, okay, Jordan's drafted 3rd. And when you look in the documentary, I'm like, okay, I know Michael Jordan's drafted 3rd. I'm prepared for it. It's hard to argue that, I mean, they made a mistake by drafting Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, no, that's not a mistake. Like, you can't know Jordan's going to be Jordan.
No, that's a good pick right there.
You could do a lot worse than drafting Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, the Sam Bowie pick is basically the Greg Oden pick with Kevin Durant.
Fair.
But the fact that he's drafted 3rd and you see who was drafted ahead of him, it's not that impeachable.
Well, no, you heard all the people that were the players that were talking about the draft and getting drafted 3rd overall. It's like he's not going to have impact because he's not over 7 foot tall. Like the NBA was completely different back then.
Yeah, and it was like that all the way up until the Greg Oden Kevin Durant draft. Like it didn't change. It didn't change recently. Like it was like that up until like 5 years ago. And they're like, oh, you can't be an impact player if this is who you're going to draft. He's got to be. Oh, they were knocking him for being like 6'3".
It's always interesting, but I don't think anybody has ever knocked the Olajuwon part of that.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. I mean that draft is arguably the best draft in the history of the basketball.
Well, even the Sam Bowie pick, in hindsight, you can knock it, but back then centers were what it was. Like
Sam Bowie was actually pretty good before he got injured too. It was a very short stint, but he actually was very, very athletic. Kind of in today's NBA, he'd be kind of a stretch 4 player. Very, very lengthy and athletic though. But he was very skilled. It was just
that's why
he had a bum ankle or foot.
That's why I compared it so much to the Kevin Durant Greg Oden draft. The only surprise for me that Michael Jordan was drafted 3rd is that the Pistons didn't have the number 2 pick. The only part that surprised me.
Yeah.
Because the Pistons suck. You guys get the joke?
We know.
Yeah, okay. So do we want to get into the redraft, the 07 redraft?
Yeah.
All right. So what we said, Jeff has the first pick. For anybody still watching, we're going to redraft the 2007 NFL draft. All disclaimers, I stole this from Bill Simmons, but it's a pretty good idea. So Jeff is going to have number 1. Tyler's going to have the number 2 pick. I'm going to take 3. And we're just going to basically redraft the 2007 NFL draft based on what we know now.
So what, do you want me to like type it up on this side screen?
No, just say it to me.
Got it.
But Jeff has the first pick, right?
Right, got it.
Okay.
So if you want to go ahead, Jeff, we're going to pick the players. You're going to say who you're going to pick, and then we're going to talk about their careers more in the first 10, 15 than the last 10 and 15. We'll say who's the pick and then talk about their career a little bit and why you think that they should have gone
there. This one was tough. Those 3 players, 2 in particular, that I think were kind of a toss-up for me. But at the end of the day,
I'm really I'm curious to see what it's going to be.
I go with Adrian Peterson.
I had that as well. Did you have that too, Tyler?
No, with the number 1, I mean, I'm going.
No. If you didn't have the same guy,
no, I did not. No.
But I also had Adrian Peterson. I'll let Jeff talk a little bit more about him and his career. But I had Adrian Peterson, 4 All-Pro selections, 7 Pro Bowls,
and has come back from pretty catastrophic injuries, a couple of times. Most notably, the one where he blew out his knee towards the end of, I forget which year it was, came back the next year, and then I think led the league in rushing. Obviously, the beginning part of his career, easily the first half of his career, I mean, the guy was almost unstoppable and kind of a freak of nature. I think
other than the obvious things we can say about him, one of the things that you can say that's most amazing about Adrian Peterson's career is that he basically redefined how you come back from an ACL injury. Now we see Klay Thompson tear his ACL and we're like, yeah, he'll be back in 8 months. Like, that's not actually normal.
No, medicine has evolved that way, but if you look at even the time frame at that point, Adrian Peterson came back way, way earlier and with much greater success than anybody had before in football.
He came back and he was almost – it was almost like he almost treated his ACL injury like a Tommy John, where he came back better than he already was, which is insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
You watch him at Oklahoma, and then and also we can't – this is 2007. So what we're talking about now, basically for the draft, for people who are watching who don't know about math, that's 13, 14 years ago. So you're talking about a running back who now they're saying their careers are 3-4 years at best. He's still in the league. He's still worth something.
And still productive. I mean,
right. He's still going to be drafted in like the 4th. He's going to be drafted still in the 4th round next year in the fantasy league.
He started for the Redskins last year, and he's 13 years in the league. Like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Tyler has the number 2 pick, and I'm curious. You didn't have AP as the number 1 pick, so who's going to be your pick at 2?
My 2 pick was actually Darrelle Revis for Detroit. Just not just based off longevity, because obviously at the tail end of his career.
For Detroit, you mean you're saying that's who picked 2, or?
Yeah, Detroit picked Darrelle Revis. You know, for 7 years, nobody threw to that side of the field, and I'm sorry, cover corners that come that way, you don't shy away from at all. Like Jeff Okudah this year, you guys are going to probably draft Jeff Okudah. Just saying, but
no Kuda.
No Kuda.
My mantra is no Kuda.
Well, he's going to be Kuda, you know.
My line as a Lions fan, my line for talent to come from Ohio State is Chase Young, and if you're not that good, I don't want you. But okay. what you're saying, okay? So I'm not saying that Darrelle Revis is not good. I'm just for content's sake, playing devil's advocate. You don't think that it's a knock that he only played on one side of the field? And I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just asking your opinion that when corners like Darrelle Revis or Josh Norman, guys who only play one side of the field, you don't put a knock on them for that.
I mean, no, because if he wanted to shadow anybody, you damn well know he could have shadowed anybody. But his stats
Agreed.
for themselves. You know, it's just
100% agree.
But it's you take any of your receivers in his first six seasons, you're not going to get over 100 yards. You're probably going to get 4 catches out of them total. Like you're completely thrown off a game plan just because you have a corner. Like
he also, I will say about Darrelle Revis's career, he almost pioneered the player empowerment era of the NFL, where the moped over here. He almost created the player empowerment of the NFL, where I'm gonna just do 1-year contracts and get as much money as I can with the Bucks or the Patriots or all these teams. So you have to give him credit for that as well. So I have the 3rd pick, and I don't know. Even though the guy who had 2nd overall is still available, I cannot not take Calvin Johnson. I have to take Calvin Johnson. I would say, and Jeff and Stretch can help me out, but top 5 receiver of all time?
Yes.
Easily.
And I think one of the most impressive things about his career, one of the most impressive things about Calvin Johnson's career is somehow he went to Georgia Tech and still wound up being one of the best receivers of all time. It would be like Julio Jones going to Army or Navy,
right,
and then still being like one of the best receivers. Like, how is that possible?
Like, how did Georgia Tech end up going, hey, you're going to play for us? You were going to
He started off as a tight end, if I'm not mistaken. And then that's what he was recruited as out of high school. And Georgia Tech running, I guess, predominantly run-based offense even back then was well, I guess they were a little bit more balanced back then. But
I should have looked up his stats.
He was a tight end.
I should have looked up his stats. What were his stats at Georgia Tech? Like 8 catches for like 800 yards? Like, how is Calvin Johnson like making a name for him? Why would he had to be born in Georgia, right? Like, why? Why?
I'm looking up his stats in college.
Any other thoughts on Calvin Johnson, Megatron?
I mean, he had 48 catches, 57 catches. He never hit over 1,000 yards in there, but he had like 12 touchdowns a year. So
yeah, it's tough when you play for the Lions. Like I said earlier, we made Barry Sanders retire. We made Calvin Johnson retire. We made Gronkowski retire. Now I'll take credit for that too. So we'll go on to
his 06 year. He had 1,202 yards, 76 receptions. And
I mean, I just asked, is he one of the best 5 receivers of all time? And everybody said yes immediately.
Easy.
So on to the 4th.
Best receiving year ever.
Onto the 4th pick. I think it's Jeff, right?
Yeah. This one for me is going to be Joe Thomas.
I had him at 2.
Yeah, me too. He's arguably the best tackle of the last decade. He's going to be, if there's a knock, which is, is that he only played 9 seasons, but I want to say he was an All-Pro every single season.
So 6 All-Pros, 10 Pro Bowls.
Okay,
he never missed
a Pro Bowler. Yeah,
he never missed any time,
and he never missed a game. He never missed a game.
His only knock is basically that he played for the Browns.
For the Cleveland,
which is the only organization worse than the Lions. When you talk about greatness slipping into oblivion, you're talking about Joe Thomas.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you had mentioned Tyron Smith and him are, I think, 1 and 2. It's debatable, but I think Joe Thomas is, without question, the best tackle of the past decade, and he was on the all-decade team. So for me, that was an easy pick.
And there's a lot of tackles that you could put that up as, but
yeah, I'm curious. So when you say that, Jeff, I have ahead of Joe Thomas, I have Tyron Smith and Larry Allen. How do you feel about those?
You say Larry Allen. Larry Allen played for the 90s Cowboys.
We're not talking about all-decade team. I'm talking about all-time.
Oh, okay. Wow. All time. Larry Allen is better than Tyron Smith by far. He's definitively
by far?
the best. Yeah, Larry Allen is the best Cowboys offensive lineman ever, and Tyron Smith's in the conversation for the next group. But
are we talking about linemen in general or tackle? Like, because Larry Allen was a guard, correct?
Larry Allen
tackle.
played
Left tackle
as well. Yeah.
Okay.
They both.
There's a famous story. There's a famous story on Le Batard show of Larry Allen. I think it was one of the Giants' defensive ends, and he said that he would line up across from Larry Allen, and he would say, "Woo, woo," like there's a train coming through. He would say, "Woo, woo," and then the ball would be run to his side, and Larry Allen would destroy this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like he's just telegraphing what's coming. It'd be like Floyd Mayweather telling you what's coming in boxing, and then just hit you in the face.
Yeah. I think Joe Thomas at the end of the day is going to be in that top 10 to 15 offensive lineman ever conversation.
Where do you put like a Jonathan Ogden in that category?
He was a guard, right?
No,
Ogden was a tackle. I mean, you can look at the all-time top 100. I think Ogden is on there.
Because you can see like who ran behind Jonathan Ogden. I mean, he had Jamal Lewis going behind him for a long time.
Sure.
McGahee ran behind him at the end of his career. I mean, they always had a power running game to the left just because he was there.
So yeah, I had AP 1, I had Joe Thomas 2, and I had to just take Calvin Johnson because that's just who I am. So Tyler with the 4th pick.
Jeff just gave the 4th pick, didn't he?
Yeah. We're on 5.
Yeah. So you just took
so is AP, Calvin Johnson, Joe Thomas. Who is the 4th?
2 was Revis.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're next, or?
Yeah. So 5. It's since I got a couple taken already. I'll go Patrick Willis.
I had him literally at 5.
Right. I mean, you talk about there was no faster linebacker in the game, and the guy just fucking balled every goddamn play. Like, he was scary to go up against for anybody. So, I mean, his career was shortened, but in hindsight, like, if you look at that, but even the years he gave, like, he was the best linebacker. I put him over Ray Lewis in athleticism. I mean, Ray Lewis.
Oh, take it easy.
I'm not. Why? Patrick Willis was way more athletic than Ray Lewis was.
I know you couched it with athleticism, but you can't be putting. Like I said, I had Patrick Willis at 5, but you cannot put him in the same class as Ray Lewis to me.
Why?
Yeah, I don't agree, Marty. I don't know that I get what you're saying, but Patrick Willis was, how many years was he an All-Pro? I think he's got his fair share.
All-Pro 5, Pro Bowl 7.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty good.
Right, but Ray Lewis, I think, was probably, I'd have to look it up, but if I had to guess, Ray Lewis is probably All-Pro like 10 years.
Well, but here's the thing, like, Ray Lewis had a nasty defense around him. The 49ers defense was nothing until Patrick Willis came into the equation.
I'm going to be like Danny DeVito and Robert De Niro right now and Goodfellas. You offended him a little bit. Patrick Willis had a good defense around him.
He did. Yeah, it wasn't
Ray Lewis.
It wasn't the Ravens, Nada and the guys, those types of guys. But yes,
Ed Reed, yeah.
Can I cut in for 1 second on this? The
Please.
Ravens defense was the Browns before Ray Lewis got there. All right.
Right, we're
they were trash before he got there.
I'm giving credit to Ray Lewis.
Yeah, I'm not saying Ray Lewis.
I'm talking to Tyler on this.
Right. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they had Ed Reed. I think Rod Woodson was on those teams.
That was later.
What?
That was later. Ed Reed came later.
It was.
I'm talking about
Patrick Willis had a good defense around him. Like I said, I agree. I had Patrick Willis at 5, but to say that he's in Ray Lewis category, I don't agree with that.
I just think he was the best linebacker of his time when he played, no matter what. So I mean,
no, because he played in the same time as Ray Lewis. That's why he's not the best linebacker of his time.
Ray Lewis.
Huh?
I'm still considering it better than Ray Lewis.
You said that he was the best linebacker of his time.
Yes, I think that Patrick Willis is better than Ray Lewis.
Stretch, get him out. Stretch, get him out of here.
The championship Ravens defense had Chris McAllister, Dwayne Starks, Rod Woodson, Peter Boulware, Jamie Sharper, Tony Segusa.
Siragusa.
Yeah, that's
you can't say that Patrick Willis is up front. I said I have Patrick Willis at 5, the same as you. You cannot say that he's better than Ray Lewis.
You cannot say that Draymond Green is a top 5 at his position of all time, but you say it.
What position are we putting him in?
Not top 5 ever.
There's not a single position you can put him in that he's top 5.
Draymond Green is
not even
DH.
DH.
But you just said
Willis was a really, really, really good player. Is he?
But he wasn't.
Like, he's
it's
not
an
Ray
insult.
Lewis.
He's not Ray Lewis.
No, I agree.
Why? Because he didn't kill a guy?
I mean, among other things. But yeah, he didn't kill a guy. I want a linebacker that's going to kill a guy.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, all right. Moving on. Number 6. We had 32 of these to get through. You're going to be calling everybody better than Ray Lewis. We're going to be here for a while.
I'll cut this podcast off so fast.
Stretch, I already told you, get Tyler out of here. You cannot say that this guy's better than Ray Lewis.
Say what I want.
Here, the GoPed goes by again. Every 10 minutes, the GoPed goes by. So is it me next?
Yeah.
So who do we have so far? AP, Joe Thomas, Calvin Johnson, Patrick Willis,
and Revis.
And Revis. So I'm gonna look at my big board. I'm gonna go Marshall Yanda.
Okay.
I had him at 4. 3 All-Pro teams. I don't know if this is a typo or not. A typo means I wrote it, but it says 13 Pro Bowls. Yeah. No, 8. Sorry. No, sorry. The B looks like a 13, but it's 8 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros. Marshall Yanda, one of the best offensive linemen, I think, of all time. And it's not like a sexy pick, but somebody who your team picks and it's like a stalwart of your offensive line for 10 years. I'm not expecting a lot out of you guys on Marshall Yanda talk, but that's who I had.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why they ran the ball so well. I mean, that's how they won.
Yeah, I'm just not expecting a lot out of you guys as far as Marshall Yanda talk.
The only pushback I would say is of all time comment. I don't know if I'd necessarily go there, but
I said
really
offensive
good.
lineman. I said offensive lineman. So
I know what you said, and I'm not necessarily in that camp. He's really good.
I made sure not to pin myself in with position, but offensive lineman. I mean, hey, people are saying that Cesar Ruiz from Michigan, who I watched Michigan a lot, if you're going to pick him in the top 15, good luck. I mean, that's fun and everything.
Marshall Yanda's not even on the all-decade team, though, sir.
I'm not looking at the same thing you're looking at, but who's ahead of him then? Who at his position is ahead of him?
I can look it up if you like, but
let's get
it sounded like you are looking at it. But yeah, move it along. You look it up, move it along.
Big Jeff, at 7.
At 7, this one, this is where things really start to get difficult. But
there's still a lot of good players left.
No, I agree, but they're all very good for different reasons. But
it's gonna be an FSU guy, isn't it?
I mean, Lawrence Timmons is in the conversation, but
I knew it.
No, I am going to pick Lawrence Timmons.
I fucking knew it. So you cannot say shit to me later on in this draft.
No, but wait a second. I don't think that's a reach at this spot. Like, he's in the conversation of these next handful of picks.
I had Lawrence Timmons. Let me see where I had him. Keep talking what you're saying.
Well, Lawrence Timmons played on some, he was kind of one of the – I mean, he was kind of an anchor of the Steelers' defense, very, very good defenses for a lot of
I had him 19.
19?
I don't think that's fair. There's a
nah, dude.
I don't think I'd have him as high as 7, but I understand why Jeff does it. It's not like I have a couple players that
I definitely understand why Jeff did it.
well, no shit.
No,
We all know.
it's fair. These next 5 or 6 picks, I don't think.
I mean, Marty, you look at the 2007 draft. There was a lot of players up front that you're like, holy shit, there was a lot of players. But then there's a good list of just like good players.
No, this is why we're doing it. This is why it's entertaining. Jeff had him at what, 7 or 8? 8.
I mean, Lawrence Timmons was good for that defense because he could be an edge rusher at the same time.
I'm kind of exaggerating, but I did have him like 10 picks later. So.
Well, that's why you come in 9th in fantasy.
So what's the case, Jeff? Then for Lawrence Timmons?
He played a total of.
I'm sure Stretch loves it.
12 seasons. Was able to play multiple positions as a linebacker. Very versatile, very athletic. Had 35 and a half sacks for his career. Total tackles 738 for his career. And like I said, was on some really, really, really good, almost arguably historically good Pittsburgh teams, Super Bowl teams.
Yeah.
And so was a Pro Bowler. So yeah.
All right, where are we at now, Tyler? Where are you at?
All right, so like I've been doing this a little differently, just because like what team needs at the time, because like there's a player
8 or 9.
8. So this is like technically Atlanta's draft. So there's a couple I pick ahead of him, but Eric Weddle just for longevity purposes, and that's what they needed at the time too. Like Eric Weddle.
I had him at 7.
Okay. Eric Weddle, obviously, we all know he is one of the smartest safeties that's been in the league since he's been there. And he's not the fastest, but football acumen, Eric Weddle that's one of the best safeties in this draft.
Eric Weddle benefits from the fact of, like, I've looked like I'm 35 since I was, like, 20.
Well, he wasn't big either. He had heart. He was what, 5'10", 5'8"?
No, I'm with you. I said I had him at 7. Eric Weddle has, and also a fun fact, until 2 years ago, I didn't know that he was not white.
No?
Nope, I'll admit it.
Things you learned today.
It does not sound like a name that's not white.
Well, I didn't know that until just now, so.
Oh my God. Is that true?
100%.
Oh no.
You just broke my heart, Marty.
So where are we at? I'm at 9, unless you had anything else on Weddle.
Nah, you're good, man.
I'm between 2 guys right now.
Go ahead and pick your guy. Go ahead and pick your guy. Go ahead and do it. You're gonna make fun of me, so go ahead and do it.
No, I'm not gonna.
No, Marty, do it. You know you want
to. If you're talking about a Michigan guy, I'm not gonna get a Michigan guy in a while. I'm objective. I have a monopoly on the truth on this podcast, as Will Kane likes to say. I'm between 2 guys, and one is more fun to talk about than the other. I think this guy that I'm not going to pick is the better pick, but I'm going to go with Marshawn Lynch.
Okay.
1 All-Pro team, 5 Pro Bowl teams, and I passed up on a guy who I think is better, but I think it's more fun to talk about Marshawn Lynch. Still, I think there's something to be said about still being in the league right now in longevity and still doing it. And the guy
he has left a couple times.
So right. I mean, Jordan did too. I mean,
well, going back to the whole Gronk coming out of retirement, do you think Marshawn Lynch was better when he came out of retirement?
No.
It's a guy who everyone loves, and he's going to be drafted next year in the 4th round of our fantasy league, and everybody loves Marshawn Lynch. What running style is more entertaining than Marshawn Lynch? He's Derrick Henry before Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably the most violent runner. AP was that guy early on before, the first half of his career, but recently.
But AP was never the run through a guy, run through a motherfucker.
Did you like watching Mike Allstott?
No, because I like watching athletic people, but I understand what you're saying. Like, Marshawn Lynch has one of the most iconic runs in NFL history from a league that has iconic players every year.
Oh,
So you can't. Mike Allstott, get the fuck out of here with that.
You're saying you liked his running style. I'm just saying Mike Allstott was more physical than Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, I can watch Mike Allstott's entire highlight career in 30 seconds because all of his runs took 10 seconds.
Oh Lord, who's next?
So what? Who? I'm curious who you thought I was gonna take, but I guess we can keep it moving.
Who did I think you were gonna take?
Well, no, don't say it yet. What did I have right there? 9th pick?
Yeah.
Well, no, 8th because I'm third.
Ninth.
So I had. Yeah. So go ahead. Whoever has the next pick, I think it's Tyler.
Yeah. Jeff,
What?
you.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Whoever had the first pick.
Oh, sorry. So I am going to go with
Another Florida State guy.
no. I'm gonna go with Ryan. I'm gonna go with Ryan Khalil here.
Okay.
Easily one of the best centers before he dealt with some injuries himself.
I had him 10. So yeah.
No, before he started getting injured, that guy. I mean,
arguably top 2 or 3 centers during.
But
his
you said center.
Years.
He was a center. I thought about him more as a tackle.
he was a center.
Really?
Who
For
did
USC, right?
He got drafted like right before D'Angelo Stewart
Paul?
No. They're running backs. They had Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams.
D'Angelo Russell?
D'Angelo Williams running right through him the whole. It's a good pick. So, Marty, what do you got to say about that one?
About a center, Ryan Khalil? I don't have much to say, to be honest.
Well, I'll go to 11.
I do remember he was with those USC teams that I like to watch, but it's hard for me to produce content as far as the center goes. Some of these picks we can keep it moving.
11. I took
not a bad pick by any means, but let's keep it moving.
I took John Beeson for 11, just at a middle linebacker spot.
All right, I had him at 12.
Just for what he did. I mean, he had injuries for the latter part of his career, but I mean, if you were going against Carolina for his career and you didn't game plan, or they didn't even talk about John Beeson, that never happened. So,
by the way, with this draft that's going on, what are the odds that I'm going to pick somebody who's already been picked? Because we're getting 100%. To that territory.
Oh, it's happening. It's happening. We know.
Who did I pick in our fantasy draft? In our fantasy draft, who did I pick 3 times?
Devontae Parker.
Okay, go on with the John Beeson talk.
After you already had him on your team.
I just really liked him.
This guy's here in the 9th? No, Marty, you took him the 6th.
Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah. He's here in the 3rd.
Yeah, this is steal. Yeah, John Beeson. No, I no argument. I had him at 12 on here. I just got back to that talk about me drafting somebody who's already been taken because I've been crossing out who has been taken. So it's gonna happen.
It is gonna happen.
I just trust you guys to tell me. And any other John Beeson commentary or?
I got nothing on John Beeson.
Really, really, really good player.
So am I next? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, and this is where I'm going to take somebody who may have already been taken. I want Joe Staley.
No.
You're good.
Yeah. So six Pro Bowls. Not a very sexy pick, but a really good lineman who was in the league for like 10 plus years, and not much we can say about him. I'm not expecting much from you guys, but Joe Staley, pretty good player, right?
Yeah, he's a hard ass.
All right. So Jeff's next.
Yeah.
I am going to go with Lamar Woodley here.
Yeah, Woodley.
And
I had him surprisingly. I had him 17.
Again, was on some very, very good defenses. Think averaged He had he had a pretty short career. It's like 9 or 10 seasons, but he had 57 sacks. His best stretch was 2008 to 2011, where he had 11 and a half, 13 and a half, 10, and 9 sacks. And then
Hey, you don't gotta convince me about Lamar Woodley. I know his work very well.
Okay, I know Michigan boy, but no, he's similar to Lawrence Simmons in the sense of they were on good defenses, were very, very productive. Pro Bowler, I mean, what else is there to say? He's a really good player, but short career.
A thing about him, and this is a yes or no question, but you can also answer however the fuck you want. But would he have been better now than he was then, as far as being able to move players around and more multiple defenses?
No, because I think the Steelers did that with him. He was an edge rusher and played linebacker, so I think they used him in that way. I mean, 3-4 defenses are kind of a hybrid defense anyway, and they move people around.
To me, two edge rushing linebackers at all times on 3-4.
And just to get into a side conversation, if you're not running a 3-4 now, like why would you not run a 3-4 with all the athletes that everybody has?
It's fair. I mean, I don't know if it's it's a 3-4 in the sense that you don't want to call it something else, but I mean, I think those athletic hybrid safety types are kind of the future of defenses, where they can move up and play, cover tight ends, play in coverage, and then come up and blitz or play the run. But
I mean, 3-4 was to cover the run for the beginning of the career, but now that defensive linebackers are getting faster, I could see you running it now more than ever just to cover those tight ends.
Yeah.
To make it easier.
Where are we at now? 12?
Yeah, 14.
14.
14.
You?
I have a kind of issue with this guy just because he really fell off hard, but he's still in the league now. It's Lamar Landry. I mean, hell of an athlete. Could you imagine Lamar Landry or Laron Landry? Sorry.
Wait, who?
Laron Landry.
Sorry, I don't have it on my board here. Who is that?
Played for LSU, got drafted by the Redskins. He was supposed to be on the opposite side as a free safety to Sean Taylor in that defense, which would have been nasty. And he still proved to be a very, very good player up until he got traded from the Redskins. Then his career kind of fell to shit. But I like Laron Landry, especially in the 13th or 14th pick.
Why do you like him? I don't even have him in the first round.
I just like him. I thought he was an athlete. I thought he had a good career for the first six seasons. And then, like I said, after that, not much. But what I'm looking at right now, I like him.
Okay. I think that's if I were to be in the room live with you, whoever team that was going to be to draft that guy, I would boo you.
Okay.
Who's next? Me?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
What number is the pick?
15.
So here's where we get into it. Has Greg Olsen been taken?
No.
Yeah, that's my guy, Greg Olsen. A very good tight end for at least 10 years. Especially coming out of Miami. Nobody has a negative word to say about him. Especially if you're going to draft before me, Laron Landry, whoever the fuck that was.
Laron Landry is good, man.
But is he better than Greg Olsen?
I was picking for a team that probably needed him. You know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean.
Well, the Jets had 14, so they needed defense pretty bad.
No, I'm just being a dick. Greg Olsen, though, still in the league, still doing it, still going to get picked in the third round of our fantasy league next year. I don't know. Three Pro Bowls, really good tight end.
Well, I mean, Greg Olsen wasn't that great for Chicago. He only became great when he was with Carolina.
I think about him more as a Panthers player than a Chicago player.
Right. I mean, he got drafted by Chicago. That's why you don't he wasn't that good. He got traded to Carolina for, I think he was part of the Julius Peppers trade, was he not?
Well, it's funny because I was never, what I should have been was a sports writer. And when I went to Florida Gulf Coast after I graduated high school, I wrote for the Florida Gulf Coast newspaper for like 1 month, and one of my things nobody else will ever remember it, but one of the things I wrote was for the Julius Peppers trade that I think where did he go? Chicago, off Carolina, and I said, did they overpay for Julius Peppers? I think he's past his prime, and then he made like 7 more Pro Bowls.
Nah. Well, that means you're an idiot.
So I was bad at this way before you guys knew me. Just because you guys watch a lot of shit doesn't mean that you're good at this, which is myself. So I took Greg Olsen. Who's next?
GF.
I am going to go with Leon Hall.
Yeah, Jeff is just trying to get on my good side of here.
Yeah.
If not for injuries, Leon Hall would have been a Pro Bowler. I guarantee it.
Well, yeah. I mean, as it was, he had a very solid career. I mean,
Lockdown.
I think it was debatable what tier of cornerbacks he fell into. I think most people thought he was going to be. He was very outspoken. He was very demonstrative. So I think that people knew who he was. But he was a good player. He had 27 interceptions for his career, and the first half of his career was very, very productive. I think the second half of his career was more of a kind of filler, veteran.
You like me out?
Presence. But yeah, I mean, he had a really solid career.
I had him 25th, but I really respect the fact that you took him this high.
All right. That's all I have to say about Leon Hall.
Yeah. So,
who's next? Tyler. Also, that team should have won a chip.
So 17, I took Dwayne Bowe. Are you pissing?
Yeah.
Nice.
Keep going.
I took Dwayne Bowe. You fucking asshole. Just because like that team that he went on did not have any receivers in Kansas City, and he essentially had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Not the greatest receiver, but could have made a difference on any team. So I'll put him in.
Is Dwayne Bowe an all-star for every single person in the world having had him on their fantasy team at one point?
I never had Dwayne Bowe in my fantasy.
Dwayne Bowe had 2 or 3 really good years and then fell off pretty significantly at that point. But
I thought he was one of those. Where did he go to college?
LSU.
Yeah, so I thought he was one of those guys where every single person in the world had him on their fantasy team at one point.
Well, just for the name itself.
Well, he's also played for a good amount of time, but he had this kind of mercurial rise and fall, especially in the fantasy football world. But even
for fantasy, he was the only player. He was the only receiver that was on the damn Chiefs for a long time.
No. Do you know who he is? I'll tell you who he is. You know who he is?
Go ahead.
Oh, that was you guys waiting for me to tell you who he is. He's Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, I think
Nah.
I think
He's not. No. Sammy Watkins is better than Dwayne Bowe.
Oh, okay. I guess it wasn't worth the wait. Sorry, guys. Who's next?
You are, Marty.
What pick are we at here?
18.
18. Let me look at my big board. Oh, you know who I want to take? Since we're getting down to the nitty gritty, it doesn't really matter overall. Wait, I'm gonna take someone who's already taken. I'm gonna stop myself. Jeff, you already took Lamar Woodley, right?
Yes, we talked about him.
Yes. See, I
about
stopped myself. I'm not taking Lamar Woodley, but I wanted to. I am going to take Deshaun Goldson.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the response I expected. So we can keep it moving. Whoever's next.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing to say about Deshaun Goldson. I'm pretty sure he went to Ohio State. And he's an asshole. So.
Taking a lot of defensive players, but for me, I am going to go with I'm going to go with James Jones here.
Wow, nice pick. I like that pick.
Obviously,
Still in the
with,
league, right?
He had a good career.
yeah, playing with Brett Favre not Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. But you know, James Jones was for a good 3 or 4 year stretch there. You know, one of the better receivers from a statistical standpoint in the NFL.
I had James Jones 22nd, and the only reason he wasn't 21st is because there's a piece of shit ahead of him. But Tyler, you continue with your pick.
Not really a sexy pick, but it was a good offensive lineman, Jermon Bushrod.
Yeah.
I had him 18, so good pick.
That's it.
Yeah, nothing much to say. We can keep it moving. I'm next.
Yeah.
So let me just ask you what. Oh, Lawrence Timmons. Yeah, he was taken way higher than he should have been. No,
7th.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I will take. This will make Tyler happy. Reggie Nelson.
I was going to take Reggie Nelson last, but Reggie Nelson
32nd
at 21st or 20th.
Oh, I thought you said last.
No.
Yeah, I'll take Reggie Nelson. Not holding against him the fact that he went to Florida. We're getting to the point where we need serviceable players. He's a serviceable corner. He's pretty good.
Here's a safety.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along.
All right. I guess.
Was that like three times in my life?
What does Brett think?
Doug Free, picking a former Cowboy. Started off injured. Doug Free was injured the early part of his career, and then is one of those rare players that was able to rehab, get in the right situation.
Oh, he was really good in the
and actually became a Pro Bowler. But he was injured the first half of his career.
I almost had him in the first round. He's a solid player.
Huh? He was actually a pretty good right tackle for the Cowboys for a handful of years.
Who's up next? T-Dog?
Yeah. I'll go Ted Ginn.
That's who I had at 21, right ahead of James Jones. But I just docked him a little bit because he went to Ohio State.
I mean, obviously, we all know Ted Ginn's never had the greatest career, but he's always there. Like he's
still doing it.
I know. So
that's the only thing he gets credit for is longevity, though. I mean, other than that,
right? But how is Ted Ginn still doing it?
Because he's managed to play on teams that just tell him to run straight to have somebody who's going to stretch the field. That's it.
Ted Ginn cannot catch the easiest balls passed to him, but he will catch the hardest balls ever thrown to him. I don't get it.
He's so fast that he makes other players who are not fast look not so fast.
Shut up, Unger.
And to Tyler's point, he drops a lot of passes.
Yeah, and he goes out of bounds all the time, which is why I docked him behind James Jones.
All right, next.
All right. Let me see what I got over here. Oh, this guy's still available. I'll take Brandon Meebane. Yeah, that's pretty much the response I expected. Brandon Meebane. Just a defensive tackle. Not a sexy pick, but a good player.
Who do you play for?
I want to say the Ravens.
Yeah, I never heard of him.
Saw him sucked. There's still a guy who I have
if
a
you
guy
watch this film.
I have a guy at 14 who's still available. But we'll see after this next pick. I think it's Jeff. Jeff?
Sir?
Jeff?
Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to pick Pierre Thomas, running back.
Pierre Thomas? It sounds like a wide receiver.
Pierre Thomas was good.
He was really good for
really good for
a stretch. He got injured, but he was a dual threat guy, and 2004, Marty, for fantasy people, he had almost 900 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. Also added another 700 yards receiving and another touchdown.
I didn't find him. I didn't find him anywhere in this draft. Who did he play for?
Saints.
Yeah, the Saints. He
No,
had another
Thomas.
1,000 total yards his next 2 seasons, and then he had a catastrophic injury. But he played only 4 seasons, very, very productive seasons, and then that was it.
All right. If you say so, I'll take your word for it. Sounds good.
Real quick, do you think, because obviously Jamarcus Russell was the first quarterback, the first player taken, do you think if he went to a different team, he would have done any different?
No.
No?
No, he was fat and out of shape, and he didn't want to work hard. And
Okay.
as somebody who's also fat and out of shape and doesn't want to work hard, I know about that.
All right. Next one.
Wait. Before you get to your next pick, if you guys have looked at this draft, it's crazy right now that we have not got to any quarterbacks.
There's
So
no quarterbacks in this draft.
The only quarterback that should go in the first round maybe is Trent Edwards. But how crazy is it that you go back to a draft and a quarterback is not even taken in the first round?
Because this draft sucked for quarterbacks.
You picked it. Huh?
No, we all picked it.
No, I'm saying how crazy is it that there's no quarterback worthy of being – is Trent Edwards going to be taken by either of you guys in the first round?
No.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Well, who was it? Drew Stanton was the other one that came out?
It was Trent Edwards, Drew Stanton, Kevin Cobb. Like, even if we did any draft now, even if we did like the RG3 draft, RG3 would still go in the first round.
For the 1 year he had good?
Yeah, still worthy of the first round.
Considering that Kirk Cousins played ahead of him and has a better career.
I'm just saying how crazy it is that there's no quarterbacks worthy of being taken in the first round.
It's crazy. It's like crazy. I don't even know if you can argue whether if you did a two round mock, if there'd be any quarterbacks.
Yeah, where does Trent Edwards go?
He goes in the 5th. To the Bills again.
Whoever's up next. I don't know who it is.
I'll take Zach Miller. Just being for longevity purposes, he's still a good decent tight end until his leg got fucking bent backwards 2 years ago.
Isn't that the coach of the Bengals?
Sure.
I know it's not, but it sounds like it. What number pick was that?
26.
All right. So am I up next?
Yeah.
I am going to take Paul Posluszny.
Paulie P.
PP.
PP was good
That's
for the Bills for a while.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about that.
Hey, he was a good hot hitter, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Fun stuff. I'm gonna go with Michael Griffin, safety.
Yeah, I had him 27.
He was fast as shit coming out of college. Marty, you all right over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got anything on Michael Griffin, Jeff?
Oh, I mean, he was a solid safety for.
I think you went to
8 or
Ohio
9
State,
years.
right?
What?
Yeah, he went to Ohio State.
Yeah, he sucks.
No, Michael Griffin went to Texas.
Was it Texas or Ohio
Yeah.
State? It was Texas? Okay, sorry.
No, it doesn't suck anymore.
So I'll go next. I'll go ahead and take Alan Branch. Why not?
Yeah, I was gonna take that guy.
I mean, he was a big boy. He did his job. We'll call it that.
Yeah, if you played with him in NCAA football, that guy was like a 97 strength, 97 overall. You can't do no wrong with Alan Brandt.
No, he's the reason why you guys were kind of decent at Michigan.
Kind of decent.
Yeah, you know?
Fuck you.
It's all right, man.
I am going to take Jacoby Jones.
Jacoby. That boy fast.
And so
I hope I have one more pick because I have one more that I wanted to pick. But go ahead.
So Jeff's going next. He's got 31, right?
Yeah. Linebacker David Harris at this spot is a pick for me. But, played 12 seasons. 11,
Yeah, I
12
had him at
seasons.
20. I had him at 26.
Yeah. 36 and a half sacks. Total tackle 723. Solid player. Played for the Jets almost his entire career.
He was a good pick.
On very good Jets teams with Darrell Revis.
There's such a thing as very good Jets teams, or
There was one.
Defensively, they were very good.
all right, Tyler, you got another pick, and I'm gonna make another one an executive decision because I want to pick this guy.
No, that's fine. I'll do Sidney Rice.
All right, yeah, he's pretty fast.
Yeah, but I mean, considering that Minnesota had nobody and he clips 1,000 yards, a couple times, I'll take him.
I will make this next pick an honorable mention, but this guy needs to be talked about. Mason Crosby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you could take him in the first round.
that's what I just did.
Yeah.
Well, 33rd. Trade back. Mason Crosby, pretty good career. Yeah.
Still kicking it hard.
So how about the draft this week? So I'm a Lions fan. Tyler is a Broncos fan. Stuff to nail him down. Jeff is what, Dolphins?
No, he's a Cowboy fan.
Oh yeah, I forgot Cowboys. So I have third pick. Tyler has whatever pick. So what do you guys want your teams to do?
Go ahead, Jeff.
For me,
What pick
it's
do you have? Like 17?
19, I think. For me, it's cornerback or defensive end would be the priorities. And I think if you're mapping up this draft, it is probably going to shape up fairly well as to the type of player that we can get at that spot at those positions, because you could have 5 quarterbacks that go. And so I think, and then wide receivers, there's going to be 6
There's so many
wide receivers, right? So then you're talking about, taking away the skill position from a defensive standpoint. You're going to get arguably the 5th or 6th best player defensively in this draft, in theory. If you think that quarterbacks and wide receivers are going to go off the board, as we probably all think.
So everybody wants to talk about how deep of a wide receiver class it is, and I've heard it 7 million times, which is fine if that's true. But the question I would ask you guys is, if it is, and I know you guys both watch college football, if it is a super deep wide receiver class, who are your top 3 wide receivers?
this year.
No, next year.
Go ahead, Tom.
What are you talking about?
I meant this year. Yes, I was being a dick.
Well, I don't know. You were saying if I was a college fan. I'm just saying it's obviously Judy Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb.
In what order?
I'll take Judy, Lamb, and Ruggs.
Jeff?
Ruggs.
I think Ruggs might be number 1. Not to jump.
I got Ruggs, and then it's close between Lamb and Judy for me.
You have Ruggs first?
Yeah.
Well, Ruggs is going to be like that Tyreek Hill kind of player. He's just unbelievable route runner, and he's fast. The fastest.
Right, and that's kind of how I view him. So if you're getting Tyreek Hill production, then okay, good luck. Then you better, the other one better be Julio Jones, and the other one better be Calvin Johnson.
Right.
Are you guys like me at all, where the name influences how good you think they're going to be?
No.
Does that make sense? No? Just me?
Yes, I get what you're saying. It's
Like
why you
Ruggs?
don't like Jeff Okudah.
No, I don't like him because he went to Ohio State.
Yeah, maybe your team would be better if they took a lot of Ohio State players.
Maybe your team would be better if you didn't suck dick.
Good one.
Florida. What has Florida done ever? Anyways.
What?
Florida, they suck.
Yeah. Smart argument, Marty.
Yeah, how are you going to do in the NCAA tournament this year? Not even ranked. Not even going to be in it.
We would have been like a 7 seed.
Really? The 7 seed?
7 or 8.
You suck.
It's all right, buddy.
Everybody keeps holding on to Tim Tebow. Oh, look at Tim Tebow. Maybe he's going to make the Cubs.
I like it when there's an argument about Florida. It's always bring up Tim Tebow, but nevertheless, he won 2 national championships, which is more than y'all have won in the last 20 years.
How many years ago did you guys win the chips?
You can't use that argument.
Why not? How long ago was it?
When did Michigan win?
In 96 for football.
They won in 97.
Same thing.
But Nebraska should have won that year.
Why?
They were better.
Okay. Tim Tebow. Oh, my God. All right, we'll get into this now. Tim Tebow as an NFL quarterback, not good. Objectively.
We're not talking about NFL. We're talking about college.
Why does every Florida fan think Tim Tebow would have been a good NFL quarterback if he got the chance? Guess why he didn't get the chance? Because he sucks.
He got a winning record, bro.
Is that hours?
Oh, my God. Jeff?
26,
I'm not even getting the Tebow conversation. He's
Why not?
a wonderful human being, was a great college player, and not a NFL quarterback. And I would have been all for Tim Tebow transitioning to some other position in the NFL, but he wasn't a starting quarterback in the league. He just wasn't.
Yeah, Tim Tebow loved football. That was his passion. He loved football, but he wasn't willing to switch to tight end. So I guess he was a liar. He didn't really love football.
He loved being a quarterback.
Why didn't he switch to tight end? Because he's a liar?
Why didn't Lamar Jackson switch to receiver?
Because he's actually a good quarterback, unlike Tim Tebow.
Well, it's just the same concept. You think you're good at one thing, you don't want to do another thing.
No, they said if Tim Tebow, if you want to stay on the team, you can switch to tight end. But he was a liar, and he didn't love football, so he just chose to do whatever the fuck he's doing now.
So vindictive over Tim. He did nothing to you.
What?
You're so vindictive over Tim. He did nothing to you.
I hate when people talk about him, like saying that he's a great quarterback. He's not a great
brought him up.
quarterback. He sucks.
You brought him up. Nobody brought him up but you.
Sure,
That's what I'm
Martin.
saying.
He's
not a good-
undeniably a great college player. I mean, that's what he was. So.
A player. That's like saying Lendell White is a great
the better
college player.
question was, how good would somebody like Charlie Ward have been in this NFL?
That's like saying Lendell White is a great college player. Of course, he was a great college player, but people aren't made out like that to be in the NFL.
Lendell White was an okay pro for a couple years.
Yeah, much better than Tim Tebow was.
True.
Yeah, true.
All right, Marty. What's next?
That's pretty much it. You guys did a good job. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Marty. You and your beard are gonna lose tomorrow.
Well, no shit. You can hit the ball like 300 yards.
That Happy Gilmore, he's hit the ball 400 yards.
What do you expect? If it's a chip off, maybe I'll win.
Well, I'll drive from the back. You drive from the ladies' tees.
We're gonna do a Zoom. I think we're gonna do a Zoom for the draft. Somebody's going to. So if you guys are interested.
I'm down.
Okay.
Is Tony going to be there?
I'm trying. I think I asked Bowers, so he may be the one leading that, but we'll see. I'll let you guys know.
All right.
But we're gonna definitely do a Zoom Thursday night.
I'll be there when the Lions fuck up the third pick. I'll be there.
Look forward to it.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Be back.
Bye, Stretch.
Come on.